Hello everyone, welcome to back my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In the tack house, Victoria tells her daughter that Victor has texted and wants them all to meet at the main house. Claire wants to meet with Kyle first. Her mother thinks she should see the family first. But Claire doesn't see what difference a few hours could make. Victoria is sure that Victor will be displeased by this. It's times like these that he thinks they need each other the most. Claire thinks that if he cares about family, he will understand she needs to see Kyle. She doesn't care what Victoria tells Victor. She's not changing her mind. Is Victor's vendetta finished? Kyle, Jack and Diane are relieved to be back in the Abbott manse. Diane and Kyle can hardly wait to see Harrison. He reminds her that his little footsteps may not be as quiet as she remembers. Diane hates that her long-awaited honeymoon was derailed, but Jack promises her it can be rescheduled. Diane still can't make sense of what the point of all of this was. Her husband points out that Kane never truly revealed his hand. That means none of them should get too comfortable. Kyle wishes they could have a day without talking about Kane and the trip from hell. They think of how devastated Amy and Chance is. Families must be. Diane suggests they go to society for breakfast. Kyle needs to bow out to see Claire. He hates that he wasn't there for her. After Kyle leaves, Diane tells Jack she doubts Claire will be happy to find out what happened between Kyle and Audra. Not to mention Victor's role in it. That's sure to put a damper on the reunion. Jack says their son did the right thing in exposing Audra and Victor's dirty little plot. But his wife worries that Kyle went to the limit and that won't sit well with Claire. When she compares this to what Jack did to save Nikki, he says he's confident Claire will understand what Kyle did. Diane hopes so, but jealousy is insidious, and it is asking a lot to look past Kyle getting so close to a former lover. The only thing they can hope for is that Kane's mysterious agenda will have Victor distracted, but they know it's not in Victor's DNA to let anything go. The Newmans Nick, his parents, and Sharon arrive at the new ranch, happy to be away from the maze. Nick feels almost totally healthy, but notices Sharon has been quiet. She admits she can't stop thinking about Chance. He was special and so kind and patient with her. Nick says Summer and Abby were gutted by news of his death. Victor thanks the pair for coming with them from the airport. He's already texted the rest of the family to come over. Nikki is surprised that he thinks the threat from Kane is that imminent. Nick agrees that it is. Victor adds that what is even more important right now is to support Claire and Victoria. They must need their family more than anything. Nick is eager to see his sister. They weren't there when she needed them. Victoria arrives and embraces her parents. She tells them how glad she is to see them. She's never been so heartbroken and empty in her life. It would have been too much to lose one of them as well. Victor admits that Cole was a good man and a good father. He wishes he'd had the chance to tell him that. His daughter is sure Cole would be glad to hear that, wherever he is. Nikki is convinced. Cole sensed it. Victor changed his mind about him when he realized how much he loved Victoria and Claire. Nick asks his sister for a hug and wishes he'd been there to help. She admits she could have used his shoulder, and tells him he has to stay by her side in the future. His days of fighting guards in European countries are over. Nate and Audra catch up. Nate arrives outside of society and peers in to see Audra sitting alone. When he enters, she rushes over and welcomes him with a hug. He wanted to meet her at the airport, but he's been spread thin. All she's wanted was for him to hold her. She still can't believe what happened to Damien and assures him she's there for him and Amy. Going to Nice was a huge mistake, she says. Nate regrets not going. It makes him sick that he wasn't there with his brother in his last days. He can't believe Damien is gone just as they were building a real relationship. Audra wishes they'd all stayed home, but asks Nate not to torture himself. They discuss how badly Amy is handling her son's death as Nate explains she's shut down. Breaking the news was the hardest thing he's ever done. At first, it was denial, then fury, and now she's withdrawn. She was on a mission to reconnect with her son. Now her purpose is gone. Nate will take care of her and has to help her transport the remains. Audra asks how she can help. Nate says holding her is enough. He's already taken care of all the arrangements for his brother since Amy couldn't face them. Nate explains that he had the office for his brother at Winters all set up and even lined up a perfect project for him to spearhead. He almost got him Bears season tickets, but put it off so they could select tickets together. Nate was really looking forward to getting to know his brother. Now, he's gone. Jack and Diane walk into society and immediately spot Nate and Audra. She complains that they can't seem to avoid that woman. Jack thinks they should at least pay condolences to Nate. She wonders if he knows what his so-called girlfriend has been up to. Jack reminds her he's in mourning, so she agrees to hold her tongue. They walk over to the table and tell Nate how sorry they are about what happened to his brother. Audra says it was a shocking and bizarre trip from beginning to end. Nodding, Diane says it was full of disturbing surprises. Audra glares at her. Jack and Diane get a table. The food may not be as good as in France, but they are happy to be home and in the real world. They talk about getting back to work, and he's sure Diane is disappointed their perfect honeymoon didn't happen. However, she has made them a blueprint, so as soon as the timing is right, nothing will stand in their way. Diane thinks they need to stay close while the Audra and Kyle mess is still playing out. Jack holds out hope that Kane may distract Victor from his focus on their son. If he thought it would help Claire and Kyle, he would even team up with Kane. If it took Victor down a few notches in the process, so much the better. Diane is taken aback to hear that. Maybe something positive could come out of their trip. Will Kyle tell Claire the truth? When Kyle meets with Claire in Chancellor's Park, she throws her arms around him. They talk about how frustrating it was not to be able to hear each other's voices. He would have been on the next jet home if he'd known what was happening with her dad. Claire understands he was trapped. She says she wants to hear all about it. Kyle's not sure she does. He warns this isn't the best time to discuss it, and he'd rather talk about how he can help her. Kyle holds Claire again and says he wishes he could do it forever. Her mind is still racing about all that's happened. Kyle promises he will share the details of his trip later. Claire admits that seeing him is all she wants right now. Plus, she wanted to be prepared in case there's something she needs to know about where he now stands with her grandfather. Shaking his head, Kyle says that's the least of their concerns. She asks about the proposal he made to Victor, and Kyle says none of that matters right now. Claire senses something is wrong. Have things become worse? He claims they barely crossed paths as Victor was mostly focused on Kane. Audra and Nate show up. The four of them do some awkward welcomes and condolences. They are all glad they had someone to lean on. Before Audra can lead Nate away, Kyle asks her about Vibrante's setbacks. Nate wonders what that means. Audra tells him it's nothing to worry about and the crisis has been averted. Kyle prods her about her investor having second thoughts, but she insists they are fine and tells him today is not the day to push. Once Kyle and Claire walk off, Nate asks Audra what that was about. She complains that Kyle is always taking digs at her, while he was handed a thriving cosmetics business by his daddy. Nate is confused about why the Abbott cares, and she claims it's ego. When Nate asks if Victor is considering pulling his financing, she says he hasn't said anything about it and she doesn't want to bother him while his family is mourning. She insists Kyle is just being a brat. Nate finds that odd after all that's happened. Smiling, she urges him to forget about Kyle and kisses him. Nate looks worried. Claire turns to her family for support back at the new ranch. Victor asks Victoria how Claire is coping. She explains her daughter is dealing with a lot of emotions right now, but she promised to stop by. Anxious to see her, Victor guesses she went to see the Abbotts before her own family. Victoria assures them her daughter will be there soon. She asks for more details about Nice, but her dad won't drop Claire's absence. Nick says it makes sense that she wants to be consoled by her boyfriend. Nikki asks her husband not to blow this out of proportion. He groans that Claire's made it clear where her priorities are. Victoria reminds her father that the bottom just dropped out of her life. He needs to stop going after her daughter. He argues he's only looking out for Claire. Nikki and Nick urge him to let this go. Victor is still concerned about her trust in Kyle. Victoria pleads with him to drop the animosity while they are saying goodbye to Cole. Claire arrives and rushes straight into Victor's arms. She hugs Nikki next, and Nick tells her they are all back for anything she needs. Victoria explains that it was her daughter who insisted on waiting until they were all back for the memorial. Victor promises they will see them through this and hugs his daughter again. Shaw